When I first saw the winning numbers flashing on the TV screen that cold December night, I thought my heart had stopped. 26 45 57 and Powerball 3. I checked my ticket once, twice, and then a third time with trembling hands, my vision blurred. I had just won $333 million. Me, Harold Thompson. Sility, a 73-year-old retired factory worker with aching knees and a modest pension. I sat there in my dimly lit living room, surrounded by old photo frames, stunned into silence. Sility. You'd think I'd be shouting, dancing, maybe crying tears of joy. But all I felt was disbelief and a strange emptiness. For years, I'd watched people change when money got involved. My own children barely called unless they needed something. Birthdays forgotten, visits skipped, unless they had a favor to ask. I'd worked hard all my life to raise them. Sility. But somewhere along the line, love had been replaced by convenience. So when I realized I held a winning ticket that could change everything, Sility, I made a decision that would change my life in a very different way. I told no one. The next morning, I quietly claimed the prize. I set up a trust, hired a lawyer, and created a plan. The first thing I did wasn't to buy a mansion or a car. It was to test something deeper. To find out who in my family still cared for me, not my wallet. So I crafted a story. I told my family that I had lost everything. A bad investment, I said. The house was nearly paid off, but I pretended the bank was taking it. My savings were gone. I needed help. My daughter, Susan, sighed on the phone and said, "Dad, I wish I could help, but times are tough. Maybe sell the house or move to assisted living." My son, Derek, he texted back a half-hearted, "Hang in there, Dad," and didn't call again for weeks. But one person didn't hesitate, my grandson, Ethan. Ethan was 21, just starting college. He wasn't rich, far from it. But the moment he heard I was in trouble, he showed up at my door with a bag of groceries and a worried look in his eyes. "Don't worry, Grandpa," he said. "We'll figure this out together." For the first time in a long while, I felt warmth in my chest. I decided to see just how far his kindness would go, and what kind of man he really was. I told him I needed help fixing up the old shed in the backyard, a facility that I might rent it out for some extra money. Without question, Ethan came over every weekend, hammering, painting, and sweating under the hot sun. When I offered to pay him, Sility, he shook his head. "Your family, you don't pay me." A week's passed, and we grew closer. We'd sit on the porch after working, drinking lemonade, talking about life, dreams, tea, and mistakes. He told me he wanted to start a small business one day. A repair shop where people could come for honest service. "The kind you used to give at the factory," he'd said. I smiled. He had my spirit. Meanwhile, the rest of the family barely checked in. Susan posted pictures of her new SUV on Facebook. Derek was busy on vacation in Hawaii. Not once did anyone ask how I was managing. Sility. I'd sit quietly in my old chair and think about how money could buy comfort, but not character. Months later, I told Ethan I had to sell my house. His face fell. "Where will you go?" he asked, voice cracking. "Don't worry about me," I said softly. "I'll be fine." But he wouldn't accept that, Liddy. He offered to let me stay with him in his small apartment near campus. He even rearranged his furniture to make space. That night, when I saw him sleep on the couch while giving me his bed, I realized something powerful. I'd found the one heart that hadn't been touched by greed. After nearly a year, I decided it was time to reveal the truth. Sility, I invited Ethan over for dinner. The table was set with my best dishes, and he looked puzzled. "Grandpa, where'd you get all this?" I smiled. "Sit down, son. There's something I need to tell you." I slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check for $10 million. His eyes widened. "Grandpa." "What is this?" I told him everything. The lottery, the fake story, the test. Tears filled his eyes as I said, "You didn't just pass, Ethan. You reminded me that love still exists in this family." He sat there in silence, shaking his head. "Grandpa, I didn't help you for money." I reached across the table and took his hand. "That's exactly why you're the only one who deserves it." I later set up funds for him to start his business, and he named it True Hands Repair. A year later, the shop was thriving. Not because of the money, but because of the integrity behind it. Ethan hired people who needed second chances. Veterans, single parents, people who'd lost their way. As for the rest of my family, they found out about the fortune eventually. There were tears, apologies, even anger. But by then, I'd learned the greatest lesson of all. Wealth reveals character, but kindness defines it. Now, I live quietly, content. Ethan visits me every Sunday. We sit on that same porch, watching the sunset. He never talks about the money, only about life, about doing good, about family. Sometimes I think about that night. The winning numbers, the flashing screen, the shock. I didn't just win 333 million. I won something far rarer. I won the truth. And in the end, that's worth more than all the money in the world.